Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. Nadine Rosechild-Sullivan, and I am an interfaith minister, a spiritual counselor, and a professor of sociology teaching diversity and inclusion. I teach courses in gender and sexuality, race, ethnicity, and social movements. And so I come to you today. This is Holy Saturday, tomorrow being Easter Sunday. Yesterday was Good Friday, and the day before Holy Thursday. It is that week for those of us who are Christian. For those of us who are not Christian, for some of us, it's been Passover. For others of us, it's just the season when the world comes back to life again. And so I want for just a moment to recognize where we're at in this span of time. For me personally, holidays like this have become bittersweet. With aging, with the passage of time, with the passage of tears of the generations of my family, things are different. And so holidays like this, Christmas, Easter, whatever you celebrate for you, there's a feel, there's a change, there's a difference. And so it's sweet to remember the good things of the past, bitter that they're no longer still here. But then there's a sweetness to that which is here now. So when I think about Easter, it brings back memories, right? It brings back my parents. It brings back memories of my grandparents and my great grandparents, and of holiday dinners long ago, and of Easter mornings. My parents having 12 children, we didn't get a lot all year long, but they did really very well by us at Christmas, and they did well by us at Easter. So there was the joy, the excitement. I remember being young enough to think there was an Easter bunny. I remember believing those stories. And but to come down on Easter Sunday morning and find my own Easter basket stuffed with candy, jelly beans, and chocolate balls of various kinds, and a chocolate rabbit, and Peeps that got better as they got older, as they got stale, but also there in the center. Even when I was little, my own 5-pound Easter egg, the one I wanted, the kind I wanted. My parents knew who wanted coconut cream and who wanted buttercream and who wanted peanut butter, and whether we wanted milk chocolate or dark chocolate. And so to have my own, to have something of my own, really meant something in that time and space for me. And I remember biting into, like, nobody cut the thing with a knife, right? We just each had our own Easter egg. And I remember the sight of that table on Easter morning with all of those 14 Easter baskets, or 15 or 16, depending on which grandparents might have been there for that morning space. And to have your own and to be able to take it away. And then as you bit into this 5-pound egg, and eventually the Easter grass was getting stuck in it, and you were having to pull it out to eat it. And then the meal, right? Then we went, of course, to Easter Sunday Mass. And some of the times I was, as I got older, I was in the church choir with my parents. And, we, as a family, did a lot of singing in 4-part harmony. But there were also times when I was down on the floor and I could hear my father's voice from the choir loft, just singing out, "Were you there?" And the words to that song and the sound of his voice brought me to tears, even as a child. Just that haunting melody that goes, and that refrain of, were you there? And the belief in Jesus at that time, and the belief in the crucifixion, and were you there when he was crucified? Were you there when he was risen? But it was Dad's voice, and maybe Easter more than the others. I mean, there was also singing in the choir loft for midnight mass on Christmas Eve, or hearing him as if I were down below. But just that space of Easter, and then everybody would begin to, jangle their keys throughout the congregation or make noise of various kinds as a celebration, as this moment passed into the recognition of resurrection. And resurrection is really very significant to us with the year that we've just been through, right? Just this space and time that we're coming up to. So as I come into this particular Easter, And I'm actually not celebrating with family this weekend. I'm celebrating next weekend because of various things having to do with custody of grandchildren and, who gets who on which weekend and all those kinds of things that may also affect some of your lives. But so some of this is this weekend for me and some of it is next weekend for me. But in that space, just to know that here and now still, there are, while my parents have gone on and my grandparents and my great grandparents, there are the children that have come through me and their children, and that space to celebrate newness again, which is what these spring holidays have always been in their various iterations. And so we're still in a place. We are in a place where many of us are getting the vaccine, and that's a rejoicing. That's a hope of resurrection with the first dose. And I mean, I knew I was not supposed to go out and play yet, right? So with the first dose, I, clearly stayed masked. Clearly kept my distance. I let a couple of weeks pass and, recognized that it took 2 or 3 weeks after the first dose to attain a certain level of immunity. And then I needed to wait till after the second dose and after a certain number of days. So, I'm now 3 weeks and some days past that second dose. But with each of those days, each of the succeeding days, and certainly with the second dose, and it made me tired. I, had something of a response to it, but it was brief and it was worth it because the mental relief of knowing that my immunity was growing and that 3 weeks out that I'm as fully immune as is humanly possible right now is just such a sigh of relief. I'm glaring less at the anti-maskers who jog past my door on the avenue or who, I mean, it's still wrong and they shouldn't. And it's rude and it's very, and I won't join them. I will continue to do what's right. Until this thing is properly declared over or behind us by scientists who know what they're talking about, this is not over yet. But being vaccinated and having others I love getting vaccinated and having some of you getting vaccinated and knowing that that's real and it's growing and there's good reason to trust it and that the mRNA vaccines that they've been working on that technology for 10 years and that the Johnson & Johnson vaccine is good as well. And to know that that's there brings a new hope and is making spring feel like spring. Last spring felt a lot like hibernation. It felt more like winter. There was last spring a remarkable aliveness to nature. The grass was greener, the flowers were brighter, the birds sounded so happy outside the window. There was just you could see that the earth was being blessed by the reduction in human activity and the reduction in cars going up and down the road. And, the flowers outside weren't dusty with exhaust fumes. Around here, you should see the exhaust fumes anyway, even on the front door. But that space still felt somber because we were just going into lockdown. We were just beginning to recognize what was coming our way. And then this has been such an incredibly tedious and long year. And I don't know how it's been for you, but we're all of us, facing just a level of fatigue about this, just a kind of COVID fatigue, if not so much from being sick, just from being so tired of the changes, so tired of whatever level at which we're being restricted and locked down and held back. And we're still not living, normal lives. We're still not living in the way that we were before. And maybe some of the change will be worth keeping, but, we'd like the chance to have this be behind us in the rear view mirror and move forward and find what that new normal is. And so in this resurrection, so the stats are still with us, right? And there are those who are running around maskless, even past my door. There are those in states where they've removed, they're removing the restrictions. There are, there's actually an upsurge again and things are rising again. And this week, and I am 1 day short, I'm only at 6 days into the week because I'm doing this on Saturday, but the globe as of, today, this afternoon, according to the COVID tracker and cove2019.live, has just almost at 132 million cases. The United States almost is passed, but at approximately 31 million diagnosed cases across this entire time. And the United States, the globe is just shy of 3 million dead. And the United States is at 568,427 deceased. We've lost over 500,000 people. We're edging our way up toward 750,000 dead in the United States. And I'm worried. I'm really very concerned about the people who are maskless and the people who are careless and the people who are, I understand hesitancy, but I also knew that I had to cast my lot with either the vaccine or the disease. And I've seen at a little distance, thankfully, but I'm not in that. I'm not an ER nurse or I'm not a nurse. I'm not that kind of doctor. I'm a PhD, not an MD or a DO. And so I haven't been in the hospital, but I have lost people, and I've had lots of students and clients lose people, and lots of people that I've known and I've been keeping a running tally. And it's been egregious. It's really been egregious. It's been egregious where I'm at in the greater Northeast, and it's got its own ways of being egregious in your state as well, wherever you are in the country. So I'm really ready for it to be over, but I'm also ready to just, when you're running a marathon, you pace yourself so that you make it to the finish line. You don't want to fall short of that finish line. You want to be able to make it all the way there. So even if you don't win it, even if you're not in the space of being able to be the first to cross the finish line, you don't want to fail to cross the finish line. So let me encourage you to continue to do everything wise. We don't know about the variants. There's good hope that the variants are working, that the vaccines are working on the variants presently among us. But there's also the epidemiological fact that people unmasking and people mixing and new variants coming in from other parts of the globe, that we don't know everything that we need to know. It's not time to be careless. So let me encourage you to continue on with care. But I want to talk about the story of the resurrection. So this space, right? This space of the spring holidays for those of the old religions of the world, for around the globe, the earth-based religions and the old ways. People saw this as the returning of the light. Maybe they saw it as the goddess being reborn from the underworld, but it was the days began to lengthen, the winter was going, the spring was coming, life is coming back, the earth is greening in all of her beauty, right? So Mother Earth is as the goddess, just filling out with the flowers and the colors and the greens and the pinks and the yellows and the reds and just the beauty of all of those spring flowers everywhere, and the variegation of the leaves. There's just so many shades of green in the springtime. There's that. For the story of Passover, which we began last year at that time, and to be like, for you and I, if we're still here, just the thankfulness that thus far, even though it has affected all of our lives, that if you're alive enough to be hearing me tonight, for now it has passed over us. We may still be inside. We may still be inside with the blood painted on the lintels of the doorposts, but it has, at this point, passed over. And then in the story, so it's the deliverance of Passover. And then the story of the gospel for the Christians is the washing away of sin and a new rightness with the divine in resurrection. So as we end this long year, the rebirth and resurrection of being fully vaccinated and being on the verge of being able to go back into public spaces, to go back into activities and commerce and concerts and ballparks and theaters and movies and restaurants and cursing at other drivers during rush hour, just feels so right there, so almost right there. Also, I'm looking forward to being able to teach in a live classroom again, to students in my classrooms. I know you may be looking forward to young children in classrooms or middle school or high school students in classrooms. I'm looking forward to college students back in classrooms. It's really hard to sweep in dramatically in floor length lace or velvet gowns to a Zoom call. It's like shoulders up, you can dress up. But I've got floor length things that I like to dress theatrically. I like to dress in way I don't know why most of us don't. I really think t-shirts and jeans are kind of boring. And I like to, have things that make a statement, that feel like something. I like costumes from historic periods and things that we would wear on stage. I think we should wear up and down the street, but not just at Halloween. But I get to do that in a live classroom, and I get to do it in a seasonal way. And I've got some that go with different holidays and colors that go with different holidays and different seasons. And so I miss that. I want to be able to do that. And it's really hard. I love to lead classroom discussions. I like to take my students from a question and allow them to think it through to arrive at a conclusion. They won't talk on the Zoom calls. So I end up lecturing, which is not something I'm given to. I'm given to presenting material, often through film, and then leading discussion. So Zoom is an entirely different teaching style. And I'm looking forward to getting back to the real way I like to do it. And there are problems still afoot in our land. There are so many states right now trying to take away, to reduce the right to vote. But even as that is happening, there are those trying to undergird the right to vote and make it easier to vote for all US citizens through the federal, through the House and through the Senate, at least half of the Senate fighting for that right to vote. There are also states that are working very hard, multitudes of states, to take away the rights of transgender youth, either to participation in sports or to the medical care that their own medical teams, that their therapists and their physicians and their parents find appropriate, and to allow the space of growing up to decide. No one actually operates on children to do gender confirmation surgery. That what they can do is pause puberty and allow a child to get old enough to finish making full recognition of identity and to then move forward. But to pause something, and there's people trying to take that away at the same time. There's a White House and the House of Representatives and at least half of the Senate that are standing for the rights of all US citizens, including those of various sexual orientations and gender identities and presentations. So there's bad news and there's good news afoot in the land at the same time. There are those looking for paths forward for the asylum seekers at our border. There's just so many things, and working for vaccine access for all of us, from the poorest to the richest, from the youngest to the oldest. They're worried the new variants affecting younger people. From the most protected to the most vulnerable, they access the work toward getting the vaccine to all of us. And we're moving toward a restoration of civility, just that space. So as you take a moment today, I want you to take a moment to be grateful for having made it this far. To just take a moment and count the blessings you do have. Even as each of these holidays, the older I get, I have to recognize who's no longer here with me. I also need to recognize who is here with me now, who maybe wasn't there then, but who are here with me now and who will, as I stand in faith, be there with me for the rest of the journey, for the full duration of my journey. So just take a moment and Think of the blessings you do have. Take a moment to think of that which is there for you. What is there in renewal? What is there in resurrection? What is there of rebirth? What is there of the turning of the seasons, the lengthening of the days, the lengthening of the light? And just for one moment, as we go into a state of prayerfulness, allow yourself to be aware of anything that feels healthy in your body right now, of the air against your skin, or of the breath in your lungs. Just taking that moment to be in that space of recognizing what you have. If you have a roof over your head, if you've lost your home to this crisis, is there another roof? Is someone extending kindness? Is there hope for forward motion? Taking this moment, if you've lost your job, has there been some unemployment? Is there something to be grateful for? Is there someone helping? Is there a way? Is there a path? Whatever we don't have now, just what do you have now? And in that recognition of what you do have, not forgetting the pain, but taking a moment just to focus on that which is coming up again. The daffodils, the crocuses, that which rises up out of the ground again, that chance to get up and remake and move forward. Life is sometimes I've thought it's like perpetually rearranging the furniture. Something happens, the old way no longer fits. You have to change it around and do it new, do it different, do it again. Just take a moment and in your own space, connect with me. Allow yourself to connect to your inner guidance. You have the voice of the divine, whatever you conceive that to be. At the core of your being, you have an internal GPS. You have an inside monitor that says, stand up, sit down, go in, go out. This is the way. This is the path forward. Turn to the right, turn to the left. This is the way. Walk in this way. So just taking a moment, even for the things you don't know, let the mind be still. And just be thankful for whatever it is you have today. Whomever you have on your side, whomever is with you, even if it's not who you would have wanted it to be. Anyone who's showing kindness, or who are you helping? Who are you being kind to in this space? To whom are you extending your aid? And as you just take that moment, recognize there's a really good chance that with these vaccines, that we are beginning to be at the end of this pandemic. There is another rise. There's a surge from the spring break. There's a surge from people misbehaving. There's a surge from people trying to ignore science. But more and more and more, the vaccines are being distributed. And for all that will remain to be done, there's a really strong probability that as the next few months pass, that you and I are privileged enough in this Western space, in this United States, or in whatever Western democratic country you may be in, that we're privileged enough to be able to move forward better in a more natural way than we have been able to this year. This thing is changing for the better. We're beginning to see a light at the end of that tunnel. And that light is a light of deliverance. It is a light of coming out and finding you've been passed over. It is a light of renewal and resurrection. It is a light of washing away the old and reconnecting with the new. So continuing with me simply to see the United States and every democracy in the world live up to the actual aspirations of participatory democracy and improve, and human and civil rights improve, seeing that and seeing science able to get itself out there to better all of our lives, and seeing whatever you believe in, your faith, to sustain you and give you strength and forward motion. Take this moment to rejoice. Take this moment like the moment when my father would end the song, "Were You There?" And he sang the last verse about resurrection. And everyone began to make noise in the church, the way we do on New Year's Eve. Allow yourself to know the new is here. And we're walking forward. And this thing is getting better. And it is turning around. So see yourself counting the blessings you do have, not discounting your pain. And we all honor each other's pain and the tremendous losses we've had. But we also all see this return of the light. Seeing you and yours safe inside the protection of the divine, seeing yourselves wrapped in a force field that keeps you safe. See yourself hearing your own inner wisdom, following your inner guidance, staying wise, doing the things science asks of us, as well as no conflict between faith and science, not really. See yourself whole and well and strong, and doing your best to play your role in letting the virus stop, seeing all of those around us vaccinated. And I'll talk with you again next Sunday after I celebrate Easter myself with my children and grandchildren. Be blessed, be whole, be well, and be resurrected.